Hey everyone, it's Karina with Kenra Professional, and today I have my lovely model here using our high lift color, so be sure to stick around. So for this application, I'm gonna be starting in the back section on the top of the crown. The reason why I'm gonna be starting here, you guys, is because the hair is typically a lot darker here, and honestly, it just takes a little bit more time to help with lifting. So I'm gonna start here where it's the darkest and work my way towards the hairline. So you can see her natural regrowth line here, and then as we move down through the mid-length, she has some previous color that looks pretty faded into more of those blonde ends. So taking my first section here, it's about a ½ an inch in width. I'm going to do a baby light first through this section on that diagonal back. I'm gonna apply my ultra lift to her natural regrowth and use our Simply Blonde Beyond Bond lightener through her mid-lengths and ends. What's really good about using two different products to help create that gradient effect in the hair, so it's a good idea to sometimes use your high lift color in that new growth area to help give some lifting and toning, and then it will definitely color melt into your lightener, creating those lighter, brighter ends for a really impressive end result. So we're gonna saturate the lightener through the ends fully to where you can't see any of the hair, so you get maximum lift there. And then we're gonna go ahead and lay our foil on top so that we get a nice even saturation. With the remaining hair, I'm gonna go ahead and take a heavier weave pattern and do a couple of tip outs. So taking a heavier weave, doing some back combing, and using just my lightener through those mid-lengths and ends where I know there's previous color. So again, fully saturating to where I can barely see the hair through my product. So really feathering from more of a high to low point, and then full saturation through your mid-lengths and ends. We're gonna move into our next section here. Again, about a ½ an inch in width. I chose to do a ½ an inch on this model because her hair is a lot finer and the density is a little bit more on the moderate side. Also, working on the diagonal back is going to give you a much more seamless blend in the end result, and also allow you to just cover a lot more hair in a faster amount of time. So that is also why I chose to do a diagonal back placement today. So again, applying my high lift to that first, it's about an inch on her of new growth. I chose to use the color, the shade Pearl in our Ultra Lift, Simply Blonde Ultra Lifts in shade and Pearl, and that is going to have a cool blue base to it. So as we're lifting, it's gonna help to neutralize and tone that regrowth area. So we're preventing a hot root situation and melting into something that's a lot lighter and brighter by using our Simply Blonde Beyond Bond through the mid-lengths and ends. I'm gonna go in with a heavy weave. So this is where you can get really creative, you guys. If you want to make these, you know, lighter and brighter, you can definitely use your lightener here. Sometimes I like to alternate, and I'll put my high lift in one of my foils, and the next one I might apply a lightener, just to give a range of tones and different dimensions throughout the application. So we're gonna do a heavy weave, go ahead and back comb these sections. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get a little creative and do my high lift through this tip out to create a bit more of that sun-kissed feel through some of her ends. As we continue working through this section, what's gonna happen is the section is gonna pivot into more of a vertical as we work on the left side here. It's totally fine. It's gonna give the same effect. The one thing to keep in mind is as your subsection begins to pivot into more of a vertical, create a higher to lower effect from the left side going back into the occipital here to create that balance on each side. I'm going to continue the same technique through the remainder of this section, and then we'll go ahead and jump to the front section. So as I'm creating my first section here around the hairline, so I'm going to go in with a baby light, very, very fine weave that mimics the fineness and the texture of her natural texture, right? So her finer hair. Going in with just my lightener here. So I'm not going to run my lightener through her ends because of course we want to maintain the integrity of her hair. We don't want to create any breakage here, so really just retouching that new growth with our lightener and still proceeding with doing a light tip out on the hair that's left directly on the face. So because she already has her blonde existing here, I'm not going to necessarily apply my lightener. All I'm going to do in this foil to give her a tip out effect is blend the line here. So really just add some diffusion very gently. And what we're doing by playing with the different lengths and how we apply our product, it's gonna give us different lengths of blonde throughout her hair. So it's gonna create way more dimension and give us a similar effect that we had and that we created in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick out the darker pieces from her previous highlight and leave our blonde pieces on the foil beneath. So you can go ahead and place another foil so that we are separating those two strands of hair, different strands of hair there, so that we aren't damaging or compromising any of her previous blonde. I'll layer one more foil there. So now that we've done our first two foils with the lightener all the way to the root, I'm gonna go back to our original technique, which is one of my favorites, using our high lift at that root area, and then using our lightener through the mid-lengths and ends. Because I want a bit more of a lived-in feel, I'm gonna start about 1/4 of an inch from her scalp and take my brush vertically and just feather that out a smidge. I'm gonna go in and pick out those darker pieces and apply my lightener through the mid-lengths and ends here. So when you're working with a fringe, you're gonna see that there's multiple layers and lengths. So not only with the fringe, but anytime you're working with layers as well, sometimes you pull the hair straight out to back comb it and you lose some of the length there. So a good trick and tip to help keep the color really consistent is to over direct the hair towards the direction that fallout's coming from and start our back comb from there. So that way she gets a little bit of that color through some of those ends as well. I'm gonna continue this same technique now that we've gotten past that hairline, you guys. Same technique until we reach the crown, and then we'll do the other side as well. So I'm applying my lightener directly to that root area and then through the mid-lengths and ends of any of the hair that is a bit darker, and just really separating those previously lightened strands to prevent any breakage. I'm gonna over direct this front piece towards the center to create a bit more length before I apply my product and do a little tip out in the front here. All right, so back into our 1/2 inch subsection, diagonal back, and I'm gonna begin to use my high lift color again at that root area, melted into our lightener. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into these side sections. So I am also going to be doing our 1/4 of an inch first section here on that diagonal back. So whenever you're working with the side sections, you definitely wanna make sure that they connect with that front hairline. So always be mindful of this front foil or the first front 2 foils here so that you can create your subsection according to the hairline. And remember, for these front 2 sections, we'll be using the lightener to keep her lighter and brighter around her face. This section, because of the density, we're gonna do 1 more foil using our high lift color through that root area, melting it into our lightener. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So once you make it to the very top of this side section here, you'll be left with a little triangle piece. So you can go ahead and back comb that to add some diffusion, and then go ahead, and I like to use the high lift color here because it's not going to lift the hair too much. It's just gonna give a nice contrast and keep some depth and dimension in through the side right here. So I'm gonna do the same technique on this last section, and stick around for the end result. All right, you guys, so I'm super excited. I went ahead and completed all of our sections. We're gonna go ahead and let this process for 40 minutes to let our Ultra Lift do its thing, and then we'll be back before we tone. Rinsed out her foils, and you guys can see that the high lifts did an extremely great job at keeping that root area nice and soft for us. We don't see any hard lines, any super blonde pieces up high. That's the beauty of our high lift color. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into our toning. I went ahead and used our Demi Permanent 9GB with 9 PV equal parts, and I'm gonna do 1 part color, 2 part developer of our 9 volume. So we're gonna go ahead and apply that all over. All right, so I'm super happy with the way her color came out. So we have her all toned and dry. Are you loving your color?
I am. I'm super happy too.
Good. So what we're gonna do to really set this off, you guys, is we're gonna go in and create some nice curls, give her a little bit more of that feathered look. So I'm gonna be using our Kenra Color Maintenance Thermal Spray. It has a medium hold of an 11, so we're gonna curl with this, and then we'll show you the end result. Okay, you guys, so we completed her hair color for today, and I'm really excited at the way it came out. We were really able to utilize our Simply Blonde Ultra Lifts to correct some of that banding and helping it really transition nicely into her ends. So please, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any additional topics, please leave them in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Kenra Professional YouTube channel.